Hi there and welcome back to my channel. My name is Susan Nethercutt. I am a long-time professional artist and of late a master's student in visual art. So welcome back to the second half of my residency vlog. I posted a previous video a couple of weeks ago about the start of this residency that I did in Tasmania. So if you haven't watched that already, I'll leave a link to that below so you can go and watch the first half of this adventure. But you can see me here in this beautiful space in this gorgeous artist residency that I went to just north of Hobart in Tasmania on the coast, and I am drawing the incredible landscape that was outside my window, looking over the most beautiful bays where oysters used to be farmed, beautiful trees in the foreground, gorgeous formations of land in the background. I spent a lot of time looking at this landscape, and so I really wanted to make sure that I did a sketch of it before I left. So you can see me here just working on pastel paper with Caran d'Ache water-soluble wax pastels, which are one of my favorite really versatile supplies. And one of the great things about these is that they're water soluble. So as I was drawing this, I was using a rag to drag over the surface of the wax crayon to get that sort of more washy effect, which actually ended up being quite a aha moment for me in later approaches that I took to art in the latter part of this week. The house where I was staying for the artist residency was in the most incredible location, as you can see out the window there. But it also had some beautiful trees, and I found over the course of the last year or so in my creative practice, I have been gravitating more and more to trees and drawing trees, painting trees, being with trees in general. And you can see me here going to say hello to the trees that I kept drawing while I was at this artist residency. These beautiful tall eucalyptus trees, which I think are white gums or ribbon gums they're sometimes called, because of the bark that you can peel off that comes down at the bottom, and then they're beautifully white up the top where the bark has fallen away. I spent a lot of quality time with these trees. So for this latter half of the residency, in the last half of the second week, I really dug down deep into drawing these trees, going down and getting to know them, using a variety of mediums to explore. I did just some value sketches in graphite, and then did some more sketches in the Caran d'Ache water-soluble wax pastels that you saw me using earlier for the other drawing. And I found these pastels were particularly excellent for really capturing the crispy texture of the bottom of these trees. So it was really great just to be able to go out and spend time there and then come into the studio and be able to observe those very trees that you can see there through the window and work on other art projects surrounding those. You can see here on my computer screen, I took some photographs of the texture of the bark. I really fell in love with the trunks of these trees, really developing a big interest in bark and the texture of bark and the patterns that happen that are almost abstract. So I really wanted to play around with that with the pastels again. So you can see me here. I've just gotten out a square accordion sketchbook, and I've taped that down to the table, and I'm just having a play around with the pastels to just get to know some of these textures through the medium, and also the beautiful abstract compositions that just occur naturally in these square photographs that I took of the tree. And I loved dragging the rag through the pastel to get this beautiful streaked effect. It still had sort of that chunky feel of the wax pastel, but then with the water-soluble aspect of them, I loved that I could make them really textured. So I really wanted to try this out on some of the linen panels that I prepared. If you're interested in how I prepare my own linen panels, some of them are temporary and some of them are permanent. You can look at the previous video for this residency because I talk all about that. So you can see me here working with the pastels and the wipes and dragging them through to create a beautiful graduated effect of blending the pastels on the linen. And I had a really lovely time doing this. It really excited me working on the linen substrate in this way. And you can see there the photograph that I'm working with. And after I had created the initial layer in wax pastel, I wanted to just add in some of those really fine surface details in oil paints because I just couldn't quite achieve those effects. So this was a combination of mediums that I have not used before, the water-soluble wax pastels with the water-soluble oil paints. So to be completely honest, even though I did search around quite a bit on the internet to get a definitive answer of how wise it is to use the oil paints over the wax pastels once they've been used as water-soluble media. Some said that it was okay, others said it might be problematic, but anyway, it's a really experimental process that I'm glad that I undertook because I was really, really pleased with the works that came out of that experiment. The artist residency that I attended is called All That We Are. It's in Tasmania near Hobart, and I'll leave a link to it in the description. It was just fantastic, had everything I needed, including a great coffee machine to keep me fueled up. And I can't speak highly enough of the people that run this artist residency, Simon and Victoria. They were so hospitable and friendly, and you can just see me here chatting across the veranda right to the other end of the building where Simon was on his veranda. But they were so respectful of my time and space, and I really felt free to create. But they were also there to have a chat, which was really nice throughout the days I was there. This was my last full day at the residency, and I decided that I wanted to make sure that I had a really good sketch of these beautiful trees that were out my window because I knew that I was going to want to work with that in some subsequent work in the studio back home where I'm doing my master's. So you can see me here just preparing some toned drawing paper that I prefer to use toned drawing paper. Just that little bit of darkness in the paper really helps me to visualize what paintings are going to look like on linen, but also sort of half the work is done for you because it's not on white paper, so you sort of need to do less shading, etc. So I spent many, many hours drawing this tree, and I actually just kept on extending the sheets of paper by taping more on until I had quite a sizable sheet because I really wanted to get into the detail, and my scale was a little off with my initial sketch while I was doing that. So I just kept taping pieces of paper on and going for it. And it was a really beautiful thing to spend this amount of time making a very detailed sketch of a tree. I felt like I really got to know those trees while I was there, and that kind of relationship with trees is something that is becoming very central to my research process, this spiritual connection to nature through trees, through nature, through touching, feeling, being in proximity to actual nature. Being able to touch it, being able to feel it is so important to me and is becoming increasingly more important in my practice. So I was ping-ponging in and out of doors that day between the sketch and going outside into nature. And it was a really beautiful thing to be able to do that. You can see me here. I am just sharpening down my Kaweco pencil with some sandpaper to get a really nice flat edge on it for some of the shading that I wanted to do for the foliage of these trees. I'm a little bit prone to forgetting to sign my artwork, so you can see me here writing the title and the location and my name, even though it's not quite completed yet. Another name for these trees, these white gums or ribbon gums, which are Eucalyptus vaminalis, they are sometimes called white knights because they're like these white sentinels that reach up very, very tall into the skyline. And I love that name for them because I do get this sense of them guarding the landscape. And they're very, very beautiful, elegant trees. Having this pin board up at the residency was just brilliant because I find it really important to have the work around me as I'm developing it. The methodology that I practice in my master's is called practice-led research or practice-based research. There's a few different names for it that all mean slightly different things, but in essence what it is an iterative process of making artwork while simultaneously doing research about a particular topic, and you continually cycling between the research element and also the artwork creation, and each feeds into each other and leads to really interesting creative outcomes. So I was constantly fiddling with and playing around with this pin board, looking at the historical subject, which I went into in much more detail in my last video around Louisa Ann Meredith, the 19th century female artist who lived in Tasmania. And this question of our spiritual connection to nature, these are the two sort of central topics that I am looking into. So I made a lot more of the historical research-based artwork in the first week and the first half of the second week of the residency that you can see here, working with old photographs of hers and really thinking about that historical element. And then returning to my own connection with nature and trees in this last couple of days. It all sort of really started to come together for me, and I feel like I made some really important breakthroughs, which I'll have to fill you in about as things develop in the studio once I get home. But finding these ways of really deeply connecting with these trees through art practice that you can see through the bark studies, which are like this skin-on-skin beautiful contact that I had with those trees. The sketching that I did of those trees that I could see not only from my window but went down to and said hello to them, had that one-on-one contact with them. It was a really pivotal experience, and this residency inside that experience really brought together both those elements of my historical research and also the practice research that I was doing. I got quite a lot done in that final day of the residency. I felt so on fire with about 1,000 different ideas that I was really excited to get home with and experiment with. But I just wanted to capture first an idea I had of a way of portraying these beautiful white gums on linen with the pastels and make sure I could bed down as many ideas as possible that I'm having for future works when I get back. So you can just see me here drawing one of those trees on a scrap of linen with the wax pastels and using a wet wipe just to drag through that bark to get that beautiful effect of the blending of the wax pastels. I absolutely loved the effect of this on the linen, and I really look forward to exploring this method a bit more when I get home. You can see how beautiful the effect is when you drag that cloth through the wax pastel. It's just so gorgeous. And if you've ever seen the smooth nature of these trees and what they look like when the bark has peeled off, you'll understand why I was excited, because it's a really similar texture that you can get with these pastels on the linen. I also particularly love strong verticals in artwork, and I want to make some very vertical inspired paintings, particularly because one of the primary features of these white gums is that they are so tall and majestic. And I also have a few other ideas as to why I want to make really elongated vertical artworks. So be sure to tune into vlogs later, because I will be sinking into that exploration very soon. This was my last afternoon, so I really wanted to get out and take some more photographs, go and visit a few more of these trees, like this beautiful she oak that was just outside the back door. This was such a beautiful landscape. It was very Australian, very dry landscape. It was the middle of summer when I was visiting Tasmania, so it was quite warm. It's another one of those beautiful white gums that was just outside. I really enjoyed walking around on the crunchy leaves and bark on the ground. And we'll just spend a bit of time to say goodbye to that beautiful space. I also wanted to spend some time sitting down and capturing all my thoughts about everything that had happened during that last week of the residency where I was making artwork. So I spent quite a long time making notes in my journal about all the different ideas I was having. Really, everything that was on that pinboard was sort of just a starting point for a lot of different directions I could take this work in. So I really wanted to capture all of those different ideas I was having while I was in the space and while I was looking at all of that artwork up in front of me in the residency studio. It was such a rich time of learning, of idea generation. There's really nothing quite like the extended depth at which you can make artwork in an artist residency, and I really highly recommend it to anyone who is seeking to carve out the time and space to be able to really go deep in their thought generation. And within a research topic, it really was a brilliant thing to do. So it was great to just look at each and every one of those artworks, the early drawings that I did based on that master study with Louisa Ann Meredith, my landscape study, the photographic collages that I made from the photos of hers that I'd viewed in that first week of the residency, where I went and did some archival research, playing with the Caran d'Ache water-soluble wax pastels to really achieve a new approach to how I am going to paint and draw trees. That was a really important technical development in my painting process that I'm very much looking forward to exploring. And I love how that medium enables me to translate those drawings on the toned paper to a concept that's on linen. Up until the time of this residency, I'd been quite stuck bringing together my contemporary art practice with the historical research element. This experience of coming to Tasmania, of going into the archives and actually seeing Louisa Ann's original artwork, seeing the original photographs that you can see I've played around with here in collage format, that kind of direct proximity to the archive was really pivotal, and it helped me to make this artwork you can see here, which was made from that master study drawing that I made, that I feel like really sums up the experience of when we encounter historical figures in the archive. I love this accordion sketchbook that I made with photographs of Louisa Ann. It really helped me to connect together the trees with the historical research, and also was the first place where I explored the wax pastels that became such a pivotal thing at the end of the week. And then it was the next day, and it was time to pack up get everything packed into the car and to drive to Devonport to go and catch the Spirit of Tasmania home. I always find it so much easier to pack up than it is to get packed in the first place. It's a much quicker process. So it was a bit bittersweet though, because I felt like I could have very easily have stayed for another week and actually made more finished artworks with some of the substrates that I brought. I did use some of the ones that I brought, but I still had quite a few there that I could have used. But nevertheless, I feel like I've opened up those directions enough to be able to continue that work when I go home. So you can just see me here packing up in all the various little clear containers that I keep a lot of my art supplies in, getting it all ready to go back into the car. I hadn't travelled with oil paints before. This was the first time that I have done that, and I really loved being able to have access to them. These particular oils are water-based oils, so I think I shouldn't have a problem in future travelling on aircraft if I do travel, but I'm really glad that I have been able to include these in the art residency process. My boxes that you saw me design to transport my wet oil paintings worked an absolute treat. So if you wanted to learn more about these multi-level boxes that I created, there's more about them in the first video that I created about the residency. So you can check that out in the link below if you haven't seen that already. I had this huge box as well with other substrates that I didn't end up using, which didn't really matter, but it was great to have them there anyway. Taking down the pin board was a bit bittersweet. It felt quite final. I settled into this space just so easily, and it felt like home really, really quickly. And yeah, I felt a bit sad about leaving it. You can just see me here packing up all of these works that I made on paper. Usually I just divide them up with sheets of baking paper, which is quite similar to glassine paper, which is often used as a protective film, but way cheaper. It's not archival, but it's fine for when you're just needing to travel and create protection between artworks that might not be completely fixed on the surface. Packing away everything into the folio that I brought where I carry all of my papers. I also love these huge Hessian bags that I buy from Muji. They're a bit bigger than usual shopping bags and they're really great for art supplies. So I just packed everything up, stacked it by the door, gave the table a really good clean. And you can see sweet Stella the dog, who belonged to the owners of the property. I really love this table. I actually really like the height of it, and I'm going to have to inquire as to what that height exactly was, because I think I need more tables of this height in the studio. It was quite a distance from the studio to the car. So I really got to work out that day in getting everything up there and packed. They had such a beautiful garden there surrounding the house as well. It was such a joy to be able to walk around and look at everything that Simon and Vic have done to develop this gorgeous property. And then it was time for me to say goodbye. Goodbye to the beautiful seascape, the beautiful landscape, those gorgeous trees that I'd spent so much quality time with that day. I was so incredibly grateful for this experience of coming here, for the experience of being able to develop my research project in this way. But it was time to go home. Thanks so much for being here and watching this second video of my art residency experience in Tasmania. If you would like to learn more from me, I have a whole range of different e-courses on my website, susannethercutt.com. If you stayed until the end, then I'd love you to give me a paintbrush emoji, since this was a real painting breakthrough video for me. And I'd love to hear from you if you've been on an artist residency before. Where did you go and what did you do? I'd really like to collect the names of other residencies that are around the world that were worth my looking at. So let me know what you've done and if you've enjoyed it. And then it was time to go and board the Spirit of Tasmania and head home. Thanks so much for being here and watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.